Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the SuperJersh Show, my podcast where I talk about music, movies, and video games. Lately, it's been a lot of movie talk because I've been in the mood for discussing horror movies and watching horror movies and all things horror because I'm a glutton for punishment. If you like this podcast and you want more episodes of it, you can find them on my website, SuperJersh.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can also get the audio version on iTunes and Spotify. Just search SuperJersh. If you want this podcast early and ad-free and also want to support anything that I do at all, patreon.com/SuperJersh. You can get this show and support me at every tier. If you just want to follow me and support me in other ways by following or subscribing, all of the online and socials are at SuperJersh. So YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all at SuperJersh. If you want to email me to be a part of the show with your questions, comments, and suggestions, the email address is superjershow@gmail.com. I want to welcome new patrons Anthony, Nathan, and RJ. And thank you, Patreon executive producer Mirror's Edge Girl. And thank you, legendary Patreon producer Zelbinian. Speaking of Halloween, I'm terrified at what you have in store for the choices that I'm going to have to make in the Battle of the Bands in November. Last but not least, I also want to say thank you to Patreon executive producer Tris, who is a special guest on this episode. Hello, Tris.
Hi.
Thank you for your patience while I go through all that bullshit. I feel like, I don't know, there should be, maybe I should have a version, maybe the Patreon version should skip all that stuff, or maybe new patrons would want to still know that information. I don't know. It just seems like all other podcasts say their shit at the start, and so I do too, but I don't know.
No, that works. It's fine. If
So
anyone doesn't like it, they can skip.
exactly, you can fast forward. So Tris joined me for this episode to talk about some movies. All right, so as Tris knows, and some of you who listen or watch this may know, I've done a few extra watch parties this month with some cheesy horror movies over on twitch.tv/SuperJersh. And I figured why not talk about any extra thoughts about the movies that I might have. And since Tris, I'm pretty sure, was able to make all of the watch parties this month, is that right?
Yeah.
So she has, yeah, so she suffered with me. And I figured since she had watched those movies as well, we might as well talk about them. So the movies that we watched recently were Clive Barker's, which is hilarious because he didn't write it or direct it. He just kind of put money behind it and his name on it. The Plague, Pay the Ghost, starring Nicolas Cage. And then, of course, the last movie we'll talk about is the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which Tris chose as one of her executive producer requests for Patreon. So if you want to see my first time reaction to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, I did record a watch along for it, and it's over at the Patreon. So I want to
go watch it.
Oh man, I'm gonna get to ask you about the watch along too.
Yeah.
When we talk about that later. So let's talk about The Plague first, since it's the oldest movie, I guess for listeners of this. Honestly, the oldest movie is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I recorded that a couple of weeks ago. So you're probably gonna have to remind me of some stuff.
Okay.
But so yeah, The Plague. I'm curious. Let me ask you first of all, what is your familiarity or fandom with Clive Barker overall? Are you a fan of Hellraiser? Does Clive Barker's name do anything for you?
I didn't know anything about him. I've heard of Hellraiser. I didn't know he was involved in that in any way. So I was just kind of like came in fresh, knew nothing, expected, or my expectations weren't low or high just because I didn't know anything.
Okay. And you I think you went into that movie knowing nothing about it, right? Like I just picked a random movie for the watch party and you didn't like go Google the plot or watch any trailers about it, right?
No, it stresses me out not to do that. I like to know,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't look anything up for any of the watch parties.
So, man, I
So I
wonder.
knew.
Do you think? And I guess we probably should have pulled up the podcast or the podcast. Calm down, Yoshi. We probably should have pulled up the trailer after we watched the movie, but I wonder if all of the major reveals, like what the plague was, what happened to kids, that it time jumped 10 years into the future, like all the things that I was fascinated by the narrative, I wonder if that's all spoiled in the trailer. I don't know.
I did go watch it afterwards, just to see,
You did?
and there's some stuff that they talk about like the plague and what happens with the kids, but they don't really go into detail. It's not like the way trailers are now
Mm-hmm.
by a long shot.
Yeah, that movie also full spoiler warning for every movie I'm talking about today because they're either really old, like The Plague came out 15 years ago, The Rocky Horror Picture Show came out 40 years ago, um,
Yeah.
and Pay the Ghost. No matter it, nobody gives a shit about that movie, so that's why we're gonna spoil that one. Um, so you don't have. So have you ever watched the Hellraiser movies?
I don't think so.
Have you ever watched Candyman?
Pinhead? Is that it? Hellraiser? Is that am I remembering that correctly?
Is what
Pinhead?
Hellraiser? Yes, yes. Pinhead is
Okay.
is like the villainous face of the Hellraiser
I
series.
might have seen that, but I don't remember it. Like in the 90s. But yeah, I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember. And I didn't see Candyman. I don't think.
Okay.
Horror is not something I watch a lot of.
Sure.
I've seen like older horror movies,
Mm-hmm.
like Friday the 13th, the Child's Play movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't actively seek them out. Although I did watch The Conjuring recently, and I enjoyed that.
For the first time?
Yeah,
Yeah, I love. I really feel like that first Conjuring movie is. I just think it's a special movie in general, regardless of horror. I like the acting. I like the cinematography. I like the story. I like
yeah,
the practical effects. You know what I mean? Like I just think it's a well-made movie.
yeah,
Um,
for sure. It was really good.
but the plague, I guess. So let's talk about the plague. Again, briefly. I don't know. I don't really time this stuff, but I don't. There's not a lot to the movie. It's very cut and dry. This strange event with these kids happen. We time jump. The kids activate, and it becomes a weird quasi zombie alien movie. And you're just trying to survive, and like that's the movie. It's like a condensed version of The Walking Dead, where it's like there's not really an ending, but
Yeah,
here's 90 minutes of hell.
yeah, for sure. And I
Um,
went back and watched the beginning, and it was definitely a lot stronger at the beginning.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to ask you before I share my thoughts, since I kind of talked about my thoughts on the live stream. Is what were your overall thoughts on it in general, and what were maybe like your two or three favorite things and two or three least favorite or disappointed parts about the movie?
Yeah, I like the beginning. I think it set up the story like really well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it like just James Vanderbeek just like appears and it's like, okay, why do I care about this character?
Mm-hmm.
And then he like kind of takes over everything because
Mm-hmm.
everyone's like getting killed by all these kids. And then it just kind of like, and then like, I don't know if maybe I just like kind of dazed off or what, or maybe you'll remember better than I do, but like they don't really explain what, what choice he made, you know what I mean? Or like how he came to the conclusion that he needed to sacrifice himself in the end.
Right. I
I
don't think.
remember there was like a preacher,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think even he explained it.
No, he didn't, and I don't think they explicitly stated in the movie. But I think I either read I we were like googling like crazy after the movie was over, trying to make heads or tails out of that terrible ending. But I don't know if it was from that insane googling session or if I looked up trivia later. But something about the poem that he read, that piece of paper that
Hmm.
he read over and over, it literally has like it's like kind of cryptic, but there is a sentence in there that basically says, once someone let go of their fear and gave themselves over, then like the madness could end or something like that. So almost like a Jesus sacrificial lamb. Like if I give my life, then everyone else will be let go, or forgiven or whatever. So I think that was kind of the metaphor, and I'm pretty sure he like outstretched his arms when he walked into the crowd of zombie kids. It definitely wanted to be heavier. It was probably heavier, like as in script form, than the version that we got of that moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then it still wasn't clear, like, was it over or was it just gonna keep going? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. The movie doesn't really say, and again, to some of the trivia or kind of like plot synopsis things that I read online, I think the general consensus is now that the kids killing those who have not converted to like their version of being, that's done. Like she's safe. They're gonna
Yeah,
coexist now. It's like
yeah,
now since one of you finally volunteered yourself and sacrificed yourself, then like we're satiated and now there's just this new version of the future with these zombie kids. It really kind of falls apart. And apparently there was massive drama with the production of the movie. There was fights over the edit. The director quit before the
gosh,
movie was even done being edited. He was just like, "I'm out." Like,
damn.
yeah, so it definitely um was it based on it was based on a short story, I thought. I could be wrong, but I wouldn't mind
Okay.
checking that out to see what like the original ending or idea is. And I fucking called it. I called it that they're not going to tell us what caused it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I kind of wondered if it was like a Book of Revelations, end of time kind of thing,
yeah.
because they brought in that religious guy. So, but
Mhm.
and then again, they didn't implicitly say one way or the other. Was it religious? Was it like a virus or anything like that? So it was just all very confusing.
Yeah. What did you think about the characters? What did you think of James Vanderbeek?
He was fine. I just like it's like where did he come from? Like it took a while
Mhm.
to get through. Like, oh, he was in prison for fighting for 10 years. Like,
Yeah,
really? Did he kill somebody?
must have
Like,
been one hell of a
what?
fight. At the very
Yeah.
end, right before he crosses the bridge, he finally admits that he did kill somebody. He killed somebody's brother.
Oh, okay.
He's like, I
I
cuz
missed that.
the quote unquote love interest, the woman doctor that I'm pretty sure was had a relationship with the long-haired Sammy Hagar guy that died. The Aaron Taylor Johnson looking dude. But
Yeah.
um she was like justifying we need to go back and get guns, and he's like, violence only leads to more violence. I don't want your life. Like, uh, in that speech, he's like, I killed a man. I know, we don't want to go down that. That's not the end. We just need to run. So that it's again very
Hmm.
offhanded. Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, I agree that his character kind of was unceremoniously introduced, and they really kind of slowly, at a glacier molasses pace, told you the backstory of the character. Honestly, they probably knew that there was not a ton of the ton to the character, and if you knew the story right away, there'd be nothing. There not a lot more reasons to be interested in watching the character throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Um,
But
so,
it would make sense, like, if he did kill someone, to have that kind of redemption arc
mm-hmm.
through from beginning to end. So, oh, okay, it makes sense that he sacrificed himself because he was trying to redeem himself
Yes,
or
because
whatever
of,
he did.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I do think, yeah, I think that uh, maybe it's because of the somber tone or the slower pace or the very limited budget where there was not a lot of moments to do exciting things. A lot of it was kind of the drama and the tension of the situation, but it was kind of it started, yeah, I thought the beginning was incredible. I thought it was a really great go for the jugular kind of opening that um could have easily been laughable, but it was so extreme I took it seriously. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um
for sure.
but yeah, I thought James Vanderbeek was fine. I thought the main I did actually kind of like how they played with, like, I think I made the joke during the watch party. Like, you think they're going to get back together at the end? Like, they kind of played with that expectation where they had the little rom-com moment of like putting the hatchback on the truck and you think they're going to reconnect, but then just like more crazy shit happens and that does not ever happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I thought that was a nice
yeah.
surprise. Um yeah, I don't know. I overall I just like I liked how it was this kind of cool, unique spin on a zombie movie, but then by the end, without explaining anything, ultimately it doesn't matter that the start was so unique because the end is still the same. It's 28 days later, it's the apocalypse, we've got to run, we've got to get supplies, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's been done. It's been done better for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, but I would say for a random Amazon Prime horror movie from 15 years ago that I had no prior knowledge or expectations of, you can definitely do worse. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So if you're,
and I mean, for the most part, the acting was fine.
yeah.
You know, like everyone did well with what they had. So it's not the worst movie I've seen. It's not the worst movie we've watched from Amazon Prime.
Oh, exactly.
So
Which one do you think is the worst one we've watched?
I don't even remember what it was called. It was the the one with Nick Cage and Hayden Christensen.
Fuck, I don't remember the name either.
Yeah,
Man, that one was rough. And we were
yeah,
robbed of Nicolas Cage. What
yeah.
was that shit ass movie? Yeah, that was rough. Yeah, I agree with that. Death Ship was better than that movie.
Yeah, 100%.
But speaking of perfectly mediocre movies that you'll never remember or forget, let's talk about Pay the Ghost really quick. Speaking of Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
So again, full spoilers. This movie came out like 5 years ago, and it stars Nicolas Cage and the woman from The Walking Dead. I've never seen her in anything else in my life except for this movie. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah,
um,
I've never seen The Walking Dead. I know what it's about, but
you're
I'm just gonna have to take your word for it.
Yeah, the first two seasons was very good. It was very compelling zombie television, like before it was
Mhm.
really oversaturated. Um, but where it's gone from there, I don't know. I just know that I got tired of it and fell off. But the first two seasons, at the very least, are definitely worth watching, even if you don't finish the series, because I don't regret watching them, and I didn't finish the series. Um, yeah, the first season is like it's a short season. It's like 6 episodes, and it's all you could almost treat it like a limited mini series because it kind of sets up the world, tells an encapsulated story, and has like a beginning, middle, and end, sort of. But then, of course, it kind of sets up later stuff. But anyway, um, so this was basically the more and more I think about it, just an Insidious ripoff. Have you ever seen the movie Insidious?
No, I've heard of it.
So that's another James Wan movie. The guys that made the Conjuring series.
Okay,
It also stars Patrick Wilson, but
okay.
it's a modern day movie. It like takes place in the present day with like technology and cell phones and things like that. It's not like The Conjuring, the 70s, whatever.
All right.
And in that movie, I won't. I'm not going to give major spoilers for Insidious in case you watch it one day. But the basic premise that the setup for that movie is it's modern day, and this 8 or 10 year old boy who looked almost exactly like the little boy in this movie slips into a coma, and basically they don't know what's going on with him or why he's in a coma. They just know that like ghosts are involved and like ghosts start showing up and hovering around his body while he's in a coma. So even though he's not kidnapped, he's been taken from them. He's in a lifeless coma basically, and they have to try to figure out what's wrong with him and what all these ghosts want with him before like it's too late and he can't come out of the coma. And
Okay.
yeah, so like even me describing that, it's like which movie are you talking about? Because if I changed the word coma to kidnapped, you'd think the same thing. Nick Cage running around trying to find his son, trying to figure out what all these ghosts popping up want with him, and before it's too late and he can't get his son back from the ghosts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but I want to know again. I always want to know your thoughts first, just in case it sparks new thoughts from me, since I kind of shared mine on the watch party. So again, full spoiler warning. Feel free to say whatever you want. But what did you think about Pay the Ghost? And had you heard of it before? Did you know anything about it?
Never heard of it. I don't keep up with movies, so especially in the last couple of years, so I wouldn't have heard of it.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't hate it. Like I checked out some reviews and stuff, and people really like hated it, and like
Huh.
the Rotten Tomatoes is like 10% or
You
something
know
like that. I'm
shit?
just like it wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't like the greatest story ever, and like you're comparing it to Insidious, so maybe just people thought it was too much of a ripoff,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why they didn't like it. But the storyline was fine. The acting was, I mean, as good as Nicolas Cage has been, as we
Yeah.
know. Um, and I just it seemed like they had too many ideas and they couldn't make any of them come together. So like that was my biggest criticism of it. Like beginning to end, it was fine.
Yeah, I would agree that there was kind of a disjointed. It's like they wanted this Celtic folklore, then they wanted this marital estranged relationship drama, then they wanted cop drama with the dad butting heads with the police not doing their job correctly. Then they wanted like, underground homeless crowd conspiracy theorist movie. Then they wanted National Treasure Light where he's piecing together clues to solve the mystery. Like yeah, it was kind of a lot of ideas at once. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say they were like making like five different movies
Mhm.
at the same time and just kind of edited them together.
Did either The Plague or Pay the Ghost scare you at all while we were watching it?
No, and there were some jump scares in Pay the Ghost, but I wasn't scared.
Right. Like I think once or twice I was definitely surprised and shocked and like kind of felt a little bit of a jolt. But again, that wasn't me being scared. That was like just like a primal response to loud noise literally out of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
um and I don't even know if I actually reacted to it when it happened. I just like felt it and was like, "Oh, you tried to jump scare me. I see what you're doing. I'm not scared though." you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I agree. The acting was fine. Um, the I said it during the watch party, and I'll say it again here for folks who missed it. I think there's definite pacing issues. I think there are long stretches where nothing happens with the supernatural, and then out of nowhere
Yeah.
it goes to 11, where they're possessed, cooking people from the insides, controlling the weather, rolling in dark clouds from hell. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
And I read this in a comment or read this in a review or something in a little bit that I read about it since we watched it too. But somebody mentioned like if this ghost can just show up and kill that medium, why didn't it just kill Nicolas Cage and be done with it?
Yeah.
Right? Like the rules really matter in a lore based movie. You know what I mean? Like in a history based, this is what the ghost did. This is what caused the ghost to be here. This is what the ghost can go away. This is what the ghost can do to you. Like it just seemed it's like weird. It's like how was their son ever able to communicate with him? Was the ghost not that powerful that she can't keep her fucking kids in check? You know what I mean? Like and then it's like, oh, but she can possess a medium, but not possess her and like speak through her, but just kill her. But the son can possess the mom and speak through the mom, and instead of just like writing a note on a piece of paper, he can have her cut in her arm in an emblem. It's it's like I don't know. It's like whoever wrote it was like, I've said this before, but it's like they just think about what would be quote unquote cool in the moment and not what would be a consistent narrative. Like, well, that'd be so fucking cool. What if you turned the corner and it was the mom there, but she had the son's voice and she was cutting herself, but it was this weird Celtic rune? Like, holy shit, that's badass. Write it down, write it down, write it down. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and then like why is the ghost like giving them the clues if her whole goal is just to kill kids every year? Like it
Yeah.
just you know what I mean?
And why do you have 365 calendar days to retrieve your children? How are they not just gone forever? Or how are not all of the other kids just straight up retrievable? Like, shouldn't we be bringing back missing kids from hundreds of years ago because he fucking broke through to the other plane and could bring kids back?
Yeah, that didn't make sense because one of the kids had been gone for like 3 years. The
Uh-huh.
one whose dad was all messed up and like methed out. And then the little girl from the Chinese restaurant had been gone for 2 years. So like why did they get to live?
Right. It didn't
And
make
anyone else.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense from a the rules of the ghosts didn't make any sense. I did again the phrase like when you first heard it was like so dumb. I like laughed. You
Oh
know,
god.
Dad, can we
Yeah.
pay the ghost? Can we say the movie title? It just like really pulled me out of the movie. Um but I did think it was cool that there was this phrase that sounds like gibberish the first time you hear it, then as you learn more, you understand why it was said. It's because it's like part of this ritual. Like the abducted asks for an alternative, and when no alternative is given because it's gibberish, then the ghost acts and says, "Well, since I'm not going to get a sacrifice, I'm going to take you." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they
Again,
say what she wanted as a sacrifice?
no. The closest thing we got to
Okay.
that is when we met uh exposition lady, the teacher who they ran into performing that ritual, who literally just started volunteering lore. You know what I mean? Hi, we're the
Yeah.
Celtic whatever. We do this every Halloween, and it's important that we do that because this is what the ghost wants. Or you hear about the ghost by chance. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think in that it didn't say what needed to be sacrificed as long as there was something. I think they were choosing personal items or something to that effect. Something important to
Okay.
them, they were giving it up. That's I don't know, like isn't all kind aren't like all kinds of strange archaic cults or religions based on punish yourself for existing and wanting things,
Yeah.
right? It's like, okay, you like that thing, huh? Fuck you for liking it. Give it up. No more chocolate. Um
I'm gonna take your kids.
Yeah. I'm gonna murder your firstborn. And also, yeah, the ghost was like kind of generic. It was like, of course, the Salem witch trial callback, but then it also was this weird CGI like nun ripoff too. I don't know. Um, so it wasn't perfect, but I've definitely seen worst movies. And good or bad, they had some fucking money for that movie. Like the
Oh yeah.
cinematography looked good, the locations looked good, the CGI. I saw worse CGI in Malignant earlier this year, which was a giant James Wan $100 million production. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
um, it had some things going for it. It would have been nice. It would have been nice if the lore made more sense and if the pacing was a little bit better instead of going like from extreme lows to extreme highs. I think it would have been a much stronger movie, but I don't regret selecting it. I'm glad we sat down to watch it. It's always good to see Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. And like I said, it wasn't a bad movie. It was fine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rewatch it, but it wasn't bad. Not as bad as people seem to think it is.
Yeah, I don't know what I would probably say it's like a 5 or a 6. It's like very average or slightly better. But there's no way it's not like this one, 10 out of 100 or 1 out of 10
Yeah.
stars like
I've seen much worse movies
absolutely.
that at that level. Yeah.
Mhm. Did you know that if you support me at any tier on patreon.com/superjersh, you can get this show early and ad-free? It's possible you didn't know that because you're hearing this promotion right now. And you may also not know that patreon.com/superjersh has dozens of exclusive reactions never released to YouTube, including TV show and movie reactions, like The Queen's Gambit, The Boys, Twin Peaks Season 1, Watchmen, and Twilight. But Jersh, I only care about when you talk about music. Why should I go to Patreon? Well, dismissive listener/viewer, the exclusive reactions I mentioned include several music reactions from a variety of artists, including 10-track mixtapes and full album reactions. These are 90-minute videos ad-free of nothing but me reacting to and reviewing music. But Jersh, also, what if I mainly care about your gaming content? Well, then you're a liar, listener/viewer, because nobody cares about my game streams on twitch.tv/superjersh. So head on over to patreon.com/superjersh now to support me at whatever tier you are most comfortable so that the reactions, reviews, podcasting, and gaming can continue. So you wouldn't rewatch it. How many times have you rewatched the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
I can't count that high. No. Just a few times. Yeah.
That number doesn't exist. So, again, full spoilers for a 40-year-old movie, but as a reminder, in case you jumped to this part, if you want to see my reaction to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, I recorded a full-length watch-along that is on patreon.com/SuperJersh, where you can see my reaction and real-time thoughts to watching the movie for the first time, start to finish. I'll state here really quick just for context, and then I want to ask Chris her thoughts on the movie. But I was, of course, aware of the Rocky Horror Picture Show because has been very popular in pop culture for my entire existence, and I knew that it was. I knew Tim Curry was in it because I'm a big Tim Curry fan from the 80s and 90s, and I knew that Susan Sarandon was in it, and I knew I don't know. Like I had heard one or two of the phrases of some of the songs, but I literally had no idea what the movie was going to be about. I didn't know what the plot was going to be about. I didn't know where it was going to take place, when, or why. I didn't know anything about any extra characters like the doorman guy, which we'll get to. And I just I didn't know if it was full musical or what, but I really didn't know what to expect. I just knew that it was kind of like this kind of cult classic whatever. Anyway, so Tris, I'm curious, what's your relationship with this movie, and why did you want me to watch it? Did you think that there would be particular moments that would shock me, or did you think I would hate it, or that I would actually like it?
Well, I'll answer that first. I just thought it would be a good reaction for this month, and it just so happened to come on Prime this month. Like it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't available when I made my request. So that was a fun surprise. So yeah, definitely if it's still available on Prime, or if anyone wants to, if they have their own copy or whatever, check out the watch along because it's a lot of fun. Always a lot of fun. Um, but so I watched it for the first time in middle school.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
ages ago. Kind of just rented it from the video store.
Mm-hmm.
And did you ever watch the Drew Carey show back in the
Gosh,
90s? That show.
man, I think my parents watched it.
Okay.
I'm definitely familiar with it. I know I
Yes.
definitely saw it as a kid, but I couldn't tell you anything about it other than Drew Carey is in it and he hates his secretary. That's what my brain remembers.
Yeah. So, they made a reference to Rocky Horror Show in that in the show, in the Drew Carey
Okay.
show. So that's the first time I ever heard of it. And I liked the song Time Warp, and I was going through my musical theater phase in middle school. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this movie, and I was just hooked. Like, I was way too young to watch the movie. Like I was 12, so
Mm-hmm.
but whatever. I was corrupted already by then from watching like Child's Play and stuff when I was a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I loved it from the jump. I thought it was great. Um, watching it back, I was like, damn, you're a messed up kid. Why did you like this as a kid? Um, yeah, so I've also seen two live productions of it.
Oh, cool.
One was definitely better than the other one, but it was a stage show first. I don't know if you've done any research on
I
it
read a little bit of trivia
since you watched
after I
it.
watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a stage show first, then it became the movie. Yeah, so I've seen that. Yeah, I've never gone to any of the midnight screenings, just because there's none anywhere I live.
The midnight screenings. What do you mean by that?
Oh, okay. So, so they played the movie, or they tried to release the movie, and it was very, very poorly received by the critics, so it wasn't ever really widely released.
Okay.
Um, and so it just kind of got relegated to midnight showings. And so it through, just kind of all the little weirdos that come out at midnight to watch movies, kind of developed cult status, kind of like The Room. You've seen The
Okay,
Room, right?
I
Yeah.
have. I watched it for
Yeah.
the very first time before I watched The Disaster Artist. I'd never seen it
Okay.
before that though.
Yeah, so very similar to that kind of like just cult following.
Mm-hmm.
So it is still playing at midnight in theaters all over the country. It has never stopped.
Oh
Um, limited
wow.
release. Yeah. Yeah, and so I also think it didn't come out on VHS for that reason until the 90s, like 15 years after it came out in the theaters.
Holy shit, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think I'd read the trivia that it had bombed, so they started playing it at night and it got more viewers, but I did not know. Like, I just assumed that was like when it was in theaters. I didn't know that that was like perpetual, like, an ongoing thing that people in a more modern time, even after the movie was first released, could do. Yeah, that's crazy that they
Yeah.
still do that. That's fun though. That's unique.
Yeah. And it's huge. Like people will bring props and they'll shout out things in the theater, like call and response things, calling Brad an asshole and Janet a slut.
Huh.
And
Rightly so.
lovely. Yeah, just wonderful, lovely things. It's a lot of fun too. Like if you go to the stage show to see it, which I know you're dying to go do.
Hey, I'm a musical guy. Okay, I like musicals, and I like live performance. Okay, Hamilton is awesome. I don't know that there's a dollar amount limit that I wouldn't try to put together to go try to fucking see Hamilton with that cast. Um,
The original cast, yeah.
right, exactly, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so when's the last time you watched it before the watch along? Was it still fresh in your mind?
Um, it's been a few years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you watch the watch along today? It's okay if you haven't. I'm not gonna take offense by any
Oh
stretch
no,
of the word.
I did.
You
I
did.
watched it today. Yeah.
All right.
I watched it twice actually, just to make
Shit,
sure it.
damn.
Is I, you had some questions I think that came up, so I was like, well, I'll try to answer them.
You probably know them better than I do because, as I said before we started recording, I recorded that watch along a couple of weeks ago. So
Yeah.
even now, the movie. I mean, but again, though, to its credit, like I pretty much remember. I remember pretty much everything. There's a wedding. There's a boom
Okay.
mic. I don't know why Tim Curry's there. I thought it was funny that there was a funeral right after a wedding, and there was some sort of commentary
Yeah.
about life and death happening in the same building. And then the car breaks down, and they go to the castle. And yeah, I pretty much remember. It's pretty
Okay.
easy to
Yeah.
remember, I guess.
Yeah. It's a very memorable movie for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. It's hard to forget. So
So
I watched it today again for the first time in a while. I don't think that was a boom mic. I think that was like a lantern above them. It might have been a boom mic, but I don't know.
I think it's a boom mic. I asked my sister about it.
Okay.
Because my sister was like, "You've never seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show?" I'm like, fuck you. Why would I have? Why would I have? No, I haven't seen it. But then I started talking to her about it after I recorded it. Before it was released on Patreon, as Tris knows, and the the Patreon Discord knows, I've been remodeling a shed with my family over the last several weeks, and have not been doing anything on the weekends except for working on that motherfucker. So I've had some time to shoot the shit with them and talk about some things I've been working on, and one of them was watching the Rocky Horror Picture Show for the first time.
How
And
is the shed? Did you build it yet? Is it
it
done?
we have one more day left. We took this
Okay.
weekend off because of weather and because we did some Halloween stuff with my son this weekend. Since I won't have him next weekend. And
Well, that's too bad.
yeah. So next weekend hopefully will be the last like happy Halloween, the shed is done. And I will be so fucking happy.
Spooky.
Ooh, it's
Spooky
scary.
shed building.
Yeah. We're
Ooh.
making it for Satan. I painted a pentagram on the
Yeah.
inside. It's real
Okay.
cool. There's cookies in there for him.
Thank you, Satan.
Cookies and milk for Satan. Um, but okay, so I lost train of thought because shit. Oh, anyway, uh, I asked her if it was a boom mic, and her understanding was that it was a boom mic. But if it is,
Okay.
there's probably a lot about this movie that is either controversial or discussion, or they don't ever say because they like the fact that fans of the movie would rather talk about it than get a real answer. So I would love
Yeah.
if it wasn't a boom mic. I felt like, just in my own experience, that it was definitely a fucking boom mic. But I thought it was like on purpose because I didn't know, again, I didn't know anything about the movie. I thought, are they showing us this boom mic because there's going to be some meta narrative on like young love and there's just like going to be some sort of fake documentary movie that's going to be revealed later? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like from what I understand, the production of it from going from the stage show to actually making the movie was really fast. Like for some reason they tried to get this movie out. I think they thought people were really going to like it a lot
Mm-hmm.
more than they did. So they might have just rushed it and just were like, fuck it, I don't care. You can see the boom mic. Let's get this movie out to these kids.
Well,
They
and
can
there's
make some money.
that's true. It's also possible that they just didn't see it because they didn't have as
Yeah.
many as like high fidelity resources to check their footage. Like apparently in the original Halloween, the cameraman was smoking all the time and apparently in a lot of the footage of the fucking movie, you can just see cigarette smoke coming out from behind the camera because the fucking cameraman was smoking while he was recording the movie. But they couldn't
That is
see
the
it.
most 70s thing ever.
Yeah, it's awesome. Anyway, so I'll share a few more of my thoughts on the movie for those curious, and then I can get into maybe you answering some of the questions that I might have asked on the watch along.
Okay.
Overall, I enjoyed watching this movie. I feel like that it was way ahead of its time, not just in terms of the subject matter and the overt sexuality and the trans commentary and normalization, but uh just in grand scale and being afraid to not make sense and into as weird as it was at first, I like that the narrator was intertwined with the narrative where he's like singing along with them. I'm like, this is so fucking weird. This would never happen today. This would never happen. Or if it did, they would say, "Oh, that's just like Rocky Horror," because nobody had done that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
Yeah.
it's like a very kind of unique thing. The performances were all over the top, but I think that that was purposeful because it was based on a stage play, and a lot of stage performances are exaggerated. Um, I thought Tim Curry was amazing, and I mean, I like Tim Curry, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily gonna like what he does. Like, if I thought that like, wow, I love Tim Curry, but this movie sucks, like I would say so. You know what I mean? Like, but
Yeah.
I really genuinely felt like with the singing and the commitment to the role and the variety of wardrobe and just the fearlessness with the way that he interacted with all of the other characters in the movie, I was like, this is iconic for a reason. Like this takes a fucking guts to like to put yourself out here like this and to portray a character like this. Um, and I did some research. I think he was like 29 or 30, but it was still that was like his
Hmm.
first film role.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But I guess he came from the stage, rightly so, because he's a very I would say performative and exaggerative actor that I've enjoyed my whole life. I don't. I think I mixed on the songs. I think some of the songs were actually catchy. The Time Warp song I think is a good song, and then there was another one that I thought was actually good. I can't remember which one that it is though, which maybe says more about it. Oh, the opening song, the Rocky Horror Picture, just the naming the different science fiction stuff. I thought that was fun, but definitely Time Warp
Yeah.
is like. Oh, the transvestite song. That's a catchy song
Oh
too.
yeah.
That got stuck in my head a lot
Yeah,
too.
that's really good.
So yeah, Time Warp and Transvestite, I think those songs are great. Basically every other song felt like it just existed because it was a musical and they have to make songs. It felt like the whole play from a musical perspective was written around Time Warp and Transvestite and all of the other songs were just fine. Like, well, okay, let's do another song. You know what I mean?
You want to know
Um
something crazy? Time Warp was written for the movie. It
what?
wasn't originally in the show. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, that's like for me. I'm like that's part of the reason the movie fucking exists. That's so crazy. Holy shit! So you just would have had transvestite. Bummer.
Yeah.
Um, I think that I just thought all the characters were fun and it was enjoyable to watch them. You know what I mean? Like the side characters, the doorman, the bald, long blonde hunchback keeper who apparently
Riff Raff.
yeah, okay, Riff Raff, uh, who is apparently a handyman. Um,
Yeah,
uh, I looked in the trivia or in the credits. I guess he wrote the play. He wrote the show.
he did. Yeah, he did.
Was what was his involvement? Did he have any other involvement in the original stage show that you're aware of besides just writing it? Did he act in it too?
Yes, he did. So he played Riff Raff in the original production, and I think on Broadway too.
Wow.
Yeah, and then there is a sequel, which I haven't seen
Wait,
because apparently it's really bad.
can't imagine. I mean, this movie is stitched together by the glue of those two songs and Tim Curry's charisma. Like it is, it's ready to collapse at any fucking moment. The second Tim Curry says something wrong, or you don't have those two good songs, because otherwise it's just fucking weird. Um,
Yeah,
but so wait, so there's a movie sequel, or there's just like a play
yeah,
sequel?
yeah. It was a movie first, and then I think it was recently made into a stage show. But I was looking into it because like I said, I never watched it, and
Mm-hmm.
Rick Mayall is in it. It was one of his first acting roles.
And who's he?
Rick Mayall,
Yeah.
Drop Dead Fred. Have you ever seen Drop Dead Fred?
Yes. Did he play the Drop
Yeah,
Dead Fred character?
yeah, that's Rick Mayall.
Oh wow! So he was in the sequel to Rocky Horror. Did he play the
Yeah.
Tim Curry role? Because I just see him for some
Mm,
reason. I see him as being like that,
no, I think he was just a
a
really
new
side
character.
character. Yeah, but
Hmm.
yeah, pretty much just the only characters that come over are um Riff Raff and Magenta, Brad and Janet, and that's it.
Brad and Janet come back.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I
What's
tried to read the synopsis and it just confused me.
Do you know what the name of it is?
It's called Shock Treatment.
Shock Treatment.
Yeah.
I would definitely watch that, but I wouldn't. I would not want to know the synopsis. I would not want to know what it's about. Um, that's crazy that they come back though, because I would have assumed. I honestly liked their character arcs, like madly in love, young love, and then the second that they are put into, as long as they're in their safe little world and they don't realize how big the world is and aren't introduced to other people, they're perfect for each other. But then as they
Yeah.
get exposed to more possibilities and more lifestyles, they're immediately torn apart and they both cheat on each other.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
also now, again, that could be a commentary on how exploitable and destructible young love is, or it could be a commentary on how charismatic the doctor played by Tim Curry was. Like maybe they were a strong love, and not even the strongest love can withstand his approach. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I get that.
Um. So can you, for the love of God, explain to me how the Hunchback Doorman is also the alien?
So from what I get gathered, they're all aliens. Riff Raff and Magenta are aliens, and so is Frank. And they came from another planet, transsexual in the galaxy of Transylvania.
Sure.
Um, yeah,
Everybody knows that.
Columbia, yes, just
Okay.
outside the Milky Way.
Yeah.
Um, and then Columbia is like a groupie, as they call her. She just kind of joined the little club and stayed. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're so those three are aliens.
Okay.
Came from another planet.
And
And um I guess
why
since
does
they
why do
came
two
to
of them pretend to work for Tim Curry and then fucking kill him? Like I don't.
again, this is just what I've gathered from watching the movie and the stage show. They do work for him. He kind of brought them over with a pretense of completing some mission. So in the last
Oh.
song, before they kill him, spoilers, um, Riff Raff says, "Your mission is a failure. Your lifestyle is too extreme." So they had some sort of mission to accomplish. Maybe it was to create more Rocky horrors or something.
Right.
But Frank just kind of wanted to screw everybody and
Right.
party, so they killed him
And then used
and
the
went back to
castle
Transylvania.
as a rocket ship.
Yeah, of course. What else
Hash,
would they use?
Hashtag Rocket Castle.
Yeah.
But then Brad and Janet are left behind,
Uh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, they're in the
With
rubble
no
looking
car.
up. Yeah.
Just kind of watching them leave.
And isn't it true? Okay, so I also thought that Meatloaf was like another Frankenstein created by Tim Curry. Um,
No.
but he was a failed. What I'm saying is, I thought he was a failed experiment, like a bad version of a Rocky horror before he successfully created Rocky. And I felt like the movie wanted me to think that because he burst out of the freezer without any explanation. And I think Tim Curry even said a failed experiment or something like that. But then it turns out he was not created by Tim Curry. He was the other doctor's nephew who Tim
Yeah.
Curry held captive and then murdered. Like, what was going on with that character?
So,
And me.
okay, again, they don't really say. But again, kind of what I've kind of amassed is he was a delivery boy. He made some sort of delivery to the castle
Oh, that makes
and met
sense.
Columbia. Yeah, so he met Columbia
Which one
and
is
they fell in
Columbia?
love.
Oh,
The
the
little
the
one with
red
the high
hair.
voice.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So they fell in love, and for some reason, Frank wanted to get involved with them, but maybe Eddie wasn't interested.
Mm-hmm.
So um, Frankenfurter took half his brain and put it in Rocky Horror. That's why you see like he has
Oh,
like a
the
cut on his skull.
scar.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
scar. Yeah.
Okay.
And then when he tried to get out, he killed him. Which that comes out of nowhere. Just comes and kills
Well,
Eddie.
I'm just like, if I'm putting a body in the freezer, why am I putting the motorcycle in there too?
Yeah.
I don't know. Thinking too
Maybe he thought he'd
logically.
mellow out with half a brain.
Yeah. How are you operating this motor vehicle right now? I took out half your brain. Um. Yeah, just a weird song in that part that I honestly don't remember it. The two songs, I remember three songs from the movie. The opening movie, something like Rocky Horror Picture, whatever, with the lips. And then I remember Transvestite and Time Warp.
Yeah.
Um, that's just songs perspective. From a story perspective, I pretty much remember the whole thing. They get invited in, we get introduced to Rocky, and then Tim Curry tries to exploit their marriage and sleep with both of them. And then Meatloaf tries to escape, and then the other doctor shows up, and whatever, right? Like I
Hmm.
remember narratively what happens for the most part. Um, I
Yeah, I was
cannot.
trying to watch it with fresh eyes and just like I was like, okay, they don't explain a lot.
Right,
So,
I have one more question for you before I talk
okay.
about kind of my favorite thing in the whole movie.
Okay.
What is either your personal opinion or a general consensus that you're aware of? Why the fuck is Tim Curry at their wedding as a different character?
Okay. So,
So I got very The
what I
Shining
think,
vibes from that moment.
yeah, what I think is that they're there trying to find an innocent couple to corrupt. And then they somehow manipulate or engineer a situation where they find the castle accidentally and blow out their tire and don't have their a spare tire. So that's just what I think.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that makes the
it
most
could have
sense.
just been to like so you if you know who Tim Curry is and what he looks like, you're like, oh, well, that's Tim Curry, because I didn't know the first time I watched it. I didn't notice him there. It didn't really stick out to me. So
I'm
that
just
was just my thought.
I'm just overly familiar with Tim Curry, I guess. Because right away I was
Yeah.
like, that's not how he's supposed to look. Because like from the pictures I've seen, you know what I mean? Like what the fuck? What
Yeah.
is he doing there? But yeah, I think that makes sense that they were undercover, basically looking for people to abduct and sleep with. I guess.
Yeah.
Um, so my favorite thing in the whole movie is Riff Raff answering the door. The way that he says like hello. I like laughed about that for like days afterwards. Just like thinking about it. Like the decision behind it of like, okay, and then he answers the door and he says hello. No, he doesn't say hello. He says hello. Like, why? You know what I mean? Like I
Good
don't know.
times, yeah.
You said that there's sort of like a meta and a cult following. What do you think are like the two or three most favorite or most popular kind of moments in the movie? Does that hello land for hardcore fans of the movie, or am I weird? Do I stand alone in liking hello?
No, I think people like that. Like they'll usually shout something out like, "What's Lionel Richie's favorite song?" Or "What's your favorite Lionel Richie song?"
Okay.
Hello.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hello, it's me or
I guess
something.
now it would be Adele. What's your favorite Adele song?
Oh, and then hello. So they try to
Yeah.
prompt somebody to say the lines.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Is there anything you don't like about the movie?
That's a good question.
Like, this perfect film that I've introduced to Jersh's life so that he may now watch it every Halloween forever. How do is there a chink in the perfect armor?
I will say, when I watched it for the first time, the stage show,
Hmm.
the death scene between Rocky and Frankenfurter was hilarious because they they kill Frankenfurter first and he falls with his bottom in the air
Yeah.
and then and then they eventually kill Rocky and he lands on top of him. So it's kind of silly, a little childish, but it was just very funny to see it that way.
So you're like, this is supposed to be a serious moment, and I'm laughing at the movie when the movie doesn't want me to be, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also thought it
Yes.
was a bummer that the final musical number of the movie, I was my most confused and least enthused. I was just like, what the fuck what is happening? What is going on here?
So
Um,
when they're being de-medused,
yeah,
that part.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they're just kind of like, I think they finally reached the point where they're like, well, we're here. Let's let go of everything we've known about being proper, people, and let's just start screwing each other
We'll see, and depending on what the mission
for
was,
fun.
maybe he was successful. Maybe the mission was to get people out of their shell and to have a little bit more fun in life, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I definitely got like the Shining vibes, but the Shining, the movie came out like 5 or 6 years after this. And I think maybe even the
Okay.
Shining book probably wasn't out by the time this came out. So that's really interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Like, this was first. Hmm.
I
Anyway,
was also thinking about another movie that's really similar, not really similar, but kind of similar is Grease. Have you ever seen Grease?
I've seen the
The
original. I saw the original Grease like when I was a teenager. That's how long it's
Okay.
been.
Yeah, it's
So
just kind of like came out in the 70s, takes place in the 50s. It's about like corrupted youth. Um, but for whatever no, not for whatever reason. There are more gay themes in Rocky Horror, so of course it's not going to be as widely received by the general public at the time,
right, because Grease
so
is
that was
hetero all the way, right? Because
yeah,
there's even songs about like boy girl hooking up with a
yeah,
girl or whatever. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I
That's
was just thinking about that.
dude. Like even today, as progressive as the climate is today, I don't see the Rocky Horror Picture Show getting a green light with a major cast and budget. And we're 15 years
Well,
post Brokeback Mountain. You know what I mean? Like,
there was a remake on Fox. I don't know if you have TV,
I,
like cable or whatever, but the major networks are kind of fighting and trying to do all these live shows. And Fox put on the Rocky Horror Show, and it was not very well received because it was too um, tame.
really?
Like it was too
Right. So they
vanilla.
they
Yeah,
watered it down. Yeah.
yeah. They had to water it down for audiences.
Exactly.
And
See,
like they had a trans woman playing Frankenfurter, which is problematic on its own. Yeah.
because it was because what made it progressive was that it was a male because it was supposed to be a male dressed as a woman, or
I think
what
yeah.
problem did people have with that? If you know, I don't know.
Um Yeah, just kind of like, why have a trans woman play that part? I mean,
Right.
she agreed to do it, so, I guess that was her choice.
Yeah.
But, it could have easily been played by a man, a
Sure.
cis man, so,
And the point and the I think the point of the character is I am a man and I'm transsexual and I'm
hmm
okay with that or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
dressing in like female type clothes and,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and being kind of sexually whatever with men.
Mhm.
So, I guess it's more acceptable still for women to do that together. So, that is a
Oh,
conversation for
okay.
another day, I think.
I was going to say what I do know is that the politics and uh problematicness around that situation is above my straight white male pay grade.
Yeah.
um but that's so funny that I just that's so funny that like my gut feeling is that like you would still wouldn't even make this movie today. I can't believe it got made when it did. And here it is, they tried
Yeah.
to do a live version
Yeah.
and it's still watered down and changed because you can't fucking do this because and when I say you can't do this, what I mean is studios with a budget would never put a financial backing behind it because movies are about making money and about servicing
hmm
the majority being as generic as possible, right? That's not, I'm not saying it
Yeah.
couldn't be made. What I'm saying is it wouldn't be made for a mass market appeal because of assumptions and statistics and projections about how many tickets they would sell. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're still not there yet, I guess. If widely.
Yeah.
There's still a market for it, but it's not something that they're going to turn a buck with, so
Right.
they're not going to even bother.
Hmm. Well, overall, I mean, like I said, overall, I enjoyed the movie. I'm glad that I finally sat down and watched it. And I guess it is funny though. Like before I watched, it, I'm like, finally, I'm gonna make sense of these weird pictures I've seen, and I don't. I haven't. There's no. You don't get any more sense watching the movie.
Yeah.
You just get to see it in motion. Um, but yeah. So I definitely would watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show again. I don't know
Yeah.
that I would watch it every year, but I would watch it again, and I would listen to Time Warp and Transvestite on their own. I think they're super catchy songs, and I thought they were a lot of fun. I thought they were also, uh, like just from the cinematography and from the filmmaking perspective, I thought they were like the biggest showpieces of the movie with all these extras, synchronized dancing and lip syncing with the music and all this stuff. There was a lot more going on in that song, whereas a lot of the other songs in the movie are just kind of like standing around singing. You know what I mean?
hmm
But
Yeah. I
yeah,
do recommend seeing it live if you ever get a chance to. And there is like a bootleg copy of um, a revival from England on YouTube. But I mean, I've seen, including that one and including the Rocky Horror, about four different Frankenfurters, and no one has ever lived up to Tim Curry. Like, that's
right.
just, you can't do better than him.
For real, like his commitment and his charisma are, like holds up literally decades later. Like I can't even
Yeah.
imagine like real time experiencing that. But
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, I think we've said what can be said about the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I guarantee that our conversation makes way more sense than that goddamn movie does. So, thank you, Tris, for your support and for requesting and making me watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and for being my guest on this episode. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for watching it. And if you have not watched the watch along, like I've said 3 or 4 times now, you need to go watch it. Very, very worth it.
Tris doing the work, plugging for me because she knows I'm terrible at promoting myself, and I
Yes.
appreciate that.
Patreon.com/SuperJersh.
All right. That is going to do it for this episode of the SuperJersh Show. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can find more episodes on my website, superjersh.com. If you watch this on YouTube and want the audio version, I'm also available on iTunes and Spotify. Just search SuperJersh. If you want to get this podcast early and ad-free, you can support me at any tier on patreon.com/SuperJersh. If you want to follow me or support me in other ways, all of my online socials are at SuperJersh. So YouTube, Twitter, Instagram are all at SuperJersh. I live stream on twitch.tv/SuperJersh. We do a lot of chess over there, some watch parties. It's a lot of fun. If you want to email the show and talk to me and be a part of the conversation, the email address is superjershow@gmail.com. As always, thank you for listening or watching. Until next time.